Anyone with the profound privilege of sitting in a chair like this one felt something shift over the last 16 hours. Because this afternoon, it is abundantly clear to everyone, not just people who sit in chairs like this one, but every single American, that the First Amendment in the hands of this current administration isn't what it used to be. It does not protect an individual's right to speak freely. That right, endowed by the founders, enshrined in the Constitution, fought for, bled for over the course of centuries, is markedly different. It is diminished today, leaving everyone, journalists and citizens alike, to wonder, where are we and what happens now? Just as importantly, right now there are ruptures of trust, some visible, some loud, some particularly notable, between Donald Trump and some of his most ardent supporters who believed him when he said this in his inaugural address.
After years and years of illegal and unconstitutional federal efforts to restrict free expression, I will also sign an executive order to immediately stop all government censorship and bring back free speech to America.
Today, 9 months after he said that, Donald Trump and his administration are cheering the decision of Disney's ABC to pull Jimmy Kimmel Live off the air indefinitely for comments the late-night host made about the motivations of the man accused of murdering right-wing activist Charlie Kirk. Before we play those comments that ended Jimmy Kimmel's run at ABC, understand the context and the background. Hours before we learned that Jimmy Kimmel would be forcibly thrown off the air, Federal Communications Commission Chair Brendan Carr threatened to, quote, take action against Disney and ABC over Jimmy Kimmel's remarks. So here they are, words the FCC deemed so offensive that the government felt comfortable enough cracking down on a major broadcast company.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger-pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half-staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks. They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. There's demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish, okay?
So those comments are apparently, in this country right now, grounds enough to ban a TV show from the airwaves, quote, indefinitely. Donald Trump predictably celebrated ABC's decision rather gleefully last night and then again today. Watch.
Jimmy Kimmel was fired because he had bad ratings more than anything else, and he said a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk. And Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent.
Perhaps just as concerning is that this is not the end of anything, but the beginning of a broader publicized assault. Just listen to FCC Chairman Brendan Carr.
If you have a broadcast TV license, that means that you have something that very few people have, and you're excluding other people from having access to that valuable public resource, and it comes with an obligation to serve the public interest. We're in the midst of a massive shift in dynamics in the media ecosystem for lots of reasons. Again, including the permission structure that President Trump's election has provided. And I would simply say we're not done yet with seeing the consequences of that.
We are not done yet. Day one of what appears to be a crackdown on the First Amendment and free speech in America is where we start today with some of the most experienced and wise voices on this topic, some of our favorite reporters and friends. Dominic Patton is here, executive editor at Deadline.com. Also joining me at the table, Oliver Darcy. He's the author of the newsletter Status, which covers all things media brilliantly and fearlessly. Also joining us, media correspondent for the New York Times, Michael Grimbaum, who's had the job of covering your own institution this week. So I start with you. They're not even bookends. They're two things that happen in the middle of the week.
Yeah, my week began reporting on a lawsuit that President Trump filed against the New York Times and 4 of my colleagues, essentially accusing the paper of defaming his reputation as a successful businessman in a series of articles. The New York Times has said the suit is meritless and that we plan to fight it. It also, in some ways, felt inevitable. Since the very start of this term in office, the president has launched a multi-pronged attack on media institutions, be it from broadcast networks to newspapers. He sued Rupert Murdoch's Wall Street Journal just a couple of months ago over Jeffrey Epstein coverage. So 3 days later, really the media and political worlds were stunned by this decision by the Walt Disney Company to temporarily pull Jimmy Kimmel off the airwaves. And it's amazing to look at sort of the series of events that led to that. Most prominently, Brendan Carr, the FCC chair, appearing on a right-wing podcast with Benny Johnson and basically suggesting that he was going to take punitive action against ABC on account of these comments. I saw this bubbling up in kind of right-wing...
How'd you see it bubbling up?
Yeah, it was on social media in sort of right-wing political circles. My reporting shows that Johnson himself was also loudly boasting about the fact that Carr had made these comments on the interview. But I have to say, even as an experienced media reporter, I was surprised when a news alert came up on my phone. It was the Wall Street Journal that first broke the news that ABC was actually decided to pull that night's episode.
I mean, Oliver, you have an incredible TikTok of how this went down at ABC. Will you take us through that?
Yeah, I mean, it starts with Brendan Carr going on Benny Johnson's podcast, and that sets off a cascade of events inside ABC News, or ABC and Disney. There were emergency meetings convened. Bob Iger, the head of Disney, was part of these meetings. Dana Walden, the head of Disney Entertainment, she was part of these meetings. And my understanding is Jimmy Kimmel was a part of some of these meetings. And they were trying to figure out how to respond. Kimmel wanted to go on air last night. He wanted to go on air and address this. He actually penned a script. Disney wasn't comfortable with the script he penned. And ultimately, Bob Iger, Dana Walden, and a few others at Disney decided that for now it was best to bench him because they were facing a rebellion from some of these local stations who Carr had also basically called on to reject Kimmel. And Nexstar had said, and Nexstar has this huge $6.2 billion deal before Carr. They had said they were going to preempt Kimmel indefinitely. Then the right-wing station owner, Sinclair, said that they were not going to air him. And so Disney was under pressure, and they decided for now, while the temperature's hot, let's bench Kimmel.
It's not the first action, though, taken by ABC. It obviously comes after the settlement with ABC News. And it was visible. I was once on The View. Those women are fearless, and the story didn't come up. I mean, it's obviously being felt and acted upon at ABC more broadly.
Yeah, I mean, we are seeing Donald Trump weaponize the federal government to punish critics, to silence critics, and it's leaving businesses in a very tough position because they have a lot of business that needs to get cleared by the federal government. Donald Trump can make their lives very painful. He can exact a lot of damage against these companies. And so if you're Bob Iger, you're looking at the fact that you have an NFL deal before the government. They could sue to stop that. If you're Nexstar, you have this $6.2 billion deal with Tegna. Donald Trump's FCC can stop that. And so when it comes to Kimmel, he is, in terms of business, much smaller than the other deals they have going before the government. But we should be very clear. Donald Trump is abusing the power of government to go after critics, and that's not something we're used to in this country. And it's also something that stands in direct contrast to what these people have claimed for the last several years. They claimed they were against cancel culture. They claimed they were pro-free speech, and now they're being exposed as just plain hypocrites.